My sister told my family my boyfriend got her pregnant. Hey guys, have you ever had that sinking feeling when someone you trust, someone you love, turns against you? Like it shakes you to your core, and you don't know what's real anymore. Well, that's exactly what happened to me when my sister, of all people, started spreading lies about my boyfriend. You're probably thinking, why would she do that? What's going on? Trust me, I was just as confused as you are. One minute, my sister and I were closer than ever, and the next, I was caught in a whirlwind of rumors and broken trust. It all happened so fast, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But today, I'm going to tell you the full story. How everything fell apart, and how I'm still picking up the pieces. This is one emotional roller coaster you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Introduction. Before I dive into the chaos, let me give you some background. I'm Sarah, and I've always had a close relationship with my sister, Emily. We were more than just siblings. We were best friends. We shared everything. You know, the usual. Secrets, closed, inside jokes that no one else would get. There wasn't a single thing I felt like I couldn't tell her. Growing up, she was my rock. I would always go to her for advice, whether it was about school, friends, or relationships. And I trusted her with everything. That's why what happened next hit me so hard. When I started dating Alex, I thought everything in my life was falling into place. He was sweet, thoughtful, and we just clicked from day one. We'd been together for about 4 years, and I thought I had the support of everyone around me, especially my sister. I mean, she had always been super supportive of me in the past, so I had no reason to think things would be any different with my relationship. She even seemed happy for me at first, asking how things were going, giving me advice when I needed it. It was like nothing had changed between us. But I guess, looking back, maybe the signs were there, and I just didn't see them. Then, out of nowhere, I started hearing rumors, whispers that my sister had been saying things behind my back. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I mean, this was my sister. There was no way she'd do something like that, right? But the more I heard, the more it became clear that something was wrong. My friends started telling me that she was saying all these things about my boyfriend. Things that I knew couldn't be true. The worst part, she wasn't coming to me directly. She was going behind my back, telling others that my boyfriend was cheating on me with someone else. When I first heard it, I felt my heart drop. I didn't want to believe it. But the fact that it was coming from her, that hit differently. I was stuck in this weird place where I didn't know who to trust. On one hand, I had my sister, someone I trusted my whole life. And on the other hand, there was my boyfriend, who had given me no reason to doubt him. But that little voice in my head kept asking, what if she's right? What if there's something I'm not seeing? The more I thought about it, the more the doubt started to creep in. I felt like I was stuck in this fog, not knowing what was real and what wasn't. It's hard to describe the feeling. This person who you shared everything with is now the one planting seeds of doubt in your mind, making you question your own reality. It was exhausting, emotionally and mentally. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't focus on anything because all I could think about was, why would she do this? I knew I had to confront her. I mean, I couldn't just let this go. But the idea of having that conversation made my stomach turn. What was I even supposed to say? Hey, I heard you've been saying some pretty messed up things about my boyfriend. Care to explain? That wasn't going to cut it. So I decided to take some time to figure out what I wanted to say. I needed to know why she would do something like this. Was it jealousy? Was she trying to protect me? Or was there something deeper going on that I didn't know about? But before I could even get to the bottom of that, I had another problem to deal with, my relationship with my boyfriend. He started to notice that something was off. I wasn't myself around him, and the more I pulled away, the more suspicious he got. It was like a domino effect. One lie, one rumor, and everything started to crumble. I didn't want to tell him what was going on because, honestly, I didn't know how he'd react. How do you even bring up something like that? Hey, so my sister thinks you're cheating on me? Care to comment? It felt so ridiculous, but it was tearing me apart. The worst part was, I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone. Who was I supposed to turn to? My best friend was the one spreading the lies, and I didn't want to drag anyone else into the mess. I felt so alone. Rising action. After wrestling with my thoughts for what felt like forever, I finally decided I couldn't let this sit any longer. I had to confront my sister. But I was nervous, beyond nervous. I didn't want to believe that she would lie about something so serious, and the thought of facing her, accusing her of betrayal, it just tore me apart. But I needed answers. The opportunity came when we were both hanging out at home. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, so I pulled her aside. I said, "We need to talk." She looked a little confused, but I think she knew what was coming. My heart was racing, but I tried to keep my voice steady. I asked her straight up, "Why are you telling people that Alex is cheating on me? What's going on?" She didn't deny it. I could see the shock in her face, but instead of explaining herself right away, she just looked down. That's when I knew it was true. I wasn't hearing rumors for no reason. She'd really been saying these things. The silence between us felt like it stretched on forever, and every second that passed, I felt my anger building. Finally, she spoke. "I was just looking out for you," she said, her voice quiet and defensive. "I didn't want you to get hurt." I was floored. How could she possibly think that spreading lies would protect me? I was furious, and I couldn't stop myself from raising my voice. Looking out for me? By lying? By making up stories about the person I'm in a relationship with? The words came out sharper than I intended, but I was too upset to care. She flinched at my tone, but she stood her ground. "I wasn't making it up," she said, crossing her arms. "I heard things from other people, and I didn't want you to get hurt. I thought if I told people, maybe it would get back to you, and you'd be more careful." At that moment, everything felt like it was spinning out of control. Nothing made sense. My sister, someone who had always been my biggest supporter, was now justifying why she spread rumors behind my back. I didn't know what to think or who to believe. My head was spinning with all the what-ifs. What if she really had heard something? What if there was something I didn't know about Alex? Was he hiding something from me? But then, I remembered. He had never given me any reason to doubt him. We had always been honest with each other, and this just didn't add up. I knew I had to get his side of the story before I jumped at any conclusions. So, after the tense conversation with my sister, I went straight to my boyfriend. I didn't want to drag it out any longer. I needed the truth, and I needed it now. When I sat him down, I could tell he already sensed something was wrong. I mean, how could he not? I had been acting distant and weird ever since this whole mess started, and he deserved to know why. I took a deep breath and just laid it all out. "My sister's been saying you're cheating on me," I said, not sugarcoating a thing. His reaction was immediate. He looked shocked, hurt, and confused all at once. "What?" he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "I would never do that to you." "Why would she say that?" I could see the pain in his eyes, and for the first time in this whole mess, I felt a glimmer of clarity. He wasn't hiding anything. He wasn't lying. The sincerity in his voice, the hurt in his expression, it didn't match the person my sister had been painting him to be. But even though my gut told me he was innocent, I couldn't ignore the damage that had been done. The trust between all of us, my sister, my boyfriend, and me, was shattered, and I didn't know how we'd come back from this. As the days went on, things just got worse. My sister and I barely spoke after that first confrontation. She was avoiding me, and every time we were in the same room, there was this thick, uncomfortable tension. And it wasn't just between us. My boyfriend was now uncomfortable around her too. The easy, friendly dynamic we used to have was gone. He didn't trust her, and I could hardly blame him. But that only made things more complicated for me. I felt stuck in the middle, being pulled in two different directions. I tried to act like everything was fine, like I could balance my relationship with both of them, but it was impossible. Anytime I spent time with my boyfriend, I could feel my sister's eyes on me, like she was silently judging every move we made. And when I spent time with my sister, all I could think about was the lies she had told and how it had nearly destroyed my relationship. At one point, I even tried to get them to talk it out. I thought maybe if they sat down and cleared the air, we could get past this. But when I suggested it, my boyfriend just shook his head. "I don't know if I can ever trust her again," he said quietly. That hit me hard. Trust, such a fragile thing, had been broken, and I didn't know how to fix it. Meanwhile, my sister was still defensive. Every time I brought it up, she'd get quiet and shut down. "I was just trying to help," she'd repeat over and over, like a broken record. But it wasn't helping. It was tearing me apart. I felt trapped. How was I supposed to choose between my sister and my boyfriend? They were the two most important people in my life, and now I was losing them both. It felt like no matter what I did, I was going to hurt someone. I started to pull away from everyone. I didn't want to be around my sister because every time I saw her, all I could think about was the betrayal. And I didn't want to be around my boyfriend because the tension between him and my sister was too much to bear. I was isolating myself, and I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me. It was one of the lowest points of my life. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of doubt, anger, and confusion. I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know if it could be fixed. Climax. The breaking point came one night when I couldn't keep it all inside any longer. I had been bottling up so much frustration and hurt, and it was tearing me apart. I was sitting in my room, replaying everything in my head, my sister's lies, the tension with my boyfriend, and the distance between all of us. I couldn't take it anymore. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and I knew I had to do something or I'd lose both of them for good. So I made the decision to confront my sister one last time. I wasn't going to tiptoe around the issue anymore. I needed the truth, why she really did what she did, and I wasn't leaving until I got it. I found her in the living room, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. Just seeing her so calm, so unaffected, it set something off inside me. I walked right up to her and said, "We need to talk. Now." She looked up at me, startled by the urgency in my voice. I could see the flicker of guilt in her eyes, but she quickly masked it. "What is it this time?" She sighed, like she was already tired of this conversation before it even started. "That was it," I snapped. "No, you don't get to act like this is no big deal," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "You lied to me. You lied about Alex, and you didn't even bother to tell me to my face. You went behind my back, spread rumors, and now I'm stuck trying to fix everything you broke. Why would you do that?" I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes, but I didn't care. I had been holding back for so long, and now all of it was pouring out. For a moment, she just stared at me, her expression unreadable. Then she finally spoke, her voice soft but defensive. "I told you. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I repeated, incredulous. "By making up lies. By turning everyone against him. You didn't protect me. You broke my trust. You made me doubt everything I knew. How is that protecting me?" The room was filled with this tense, suffocating silence. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, waiting for her response, hoping she'd finally come clean. And then she broke. Tears started streaming down her face, and she crumpled right in front of me. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I didn't know what else to do." I stood there, stunned. This was the first time she had shown real emotion since this whole mess started, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say. She continued, her words tumbling out between sobs. "I saw how happy you were with him, and I guess I got jealous. I know it sounds stupid, but you and I were always so close, and then he came along, and it felt like I was losing you. I felt like you didn't need me anymore, and I panicked. I thought if I told people things about him, it would make you doubt him, and maybe you'd come back to me." Her confession hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't expecting this. Jealousy? Over our relationship? It suddenly made sense. The weird tension, the sideways comments she had made about my relationship that I'd brushed off as jokes. She wasn't angry at him. She was afraid of losing me. I didn't know how to respond. I felt torn between anger and pity. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to tell her how selfish she had been for letting her insecurities wreck everything. But another part of me felt heartbroken. This was my sister, the person I had always looked up to, and now she was falling apart in front of me because she didn't know how to handle her feelings. "I'm sorry," she kept saying, over and over, her voice shaky. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." For the first time in a long time, I saw her vulnerability, the fear behind her actions, the insecurity that had driven her to do something so hurtful. It didn't excuse what she had done, but it helped me understand. I could see now that she wasn't trying to destroy my relationship. She was trying, in her own twisted way, to hold on to the one person she felt like she was losing, me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. "I understand why you did it," I said slowly, "but that doesn't make it okay. You lied, and you hurt me, and now I don't know how to fix this." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I'll do anything to make it right," she whispered. "Please just don't hate me." I didn't hate her. I could never hate her. But I didn't know how to forgive her either. Not yet. "I need time," I said finally. "I can't just forget what happened. It's going to take time for me to trust you again." She nodded, wiping away her tears. "I understand." Falling action. After that conversation, things weren't magically fixed. Far from it. My relationship with my sister felt strained, like we were walking on eggshells around each other. She apologized, and I knew she was sincere, but I couldn't just flip a switch and go back to how things were. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. The next few days were awkward between us. We still lived under the same roof, but we barely talked. The air between us felt heavy, like there were so many unsaid things still hanging in the space. I wanted to believe her apology, to forgive her and move on, but the wound was still fresh. Every time I thought about what she had done, the pain and anger would bubble back up to the surface. As for my boyfriend, things weren't much easier. He was trying his best to be understanding, but I could tell the whole situation had rattled him too. The trust between us hadn't been broken, but it was definitely bruised. Even though he had done nothing wrong, he felt hurt by the accusations and the fact that I had doubted him, even for a second. One evening as we sat together, the weight of everything hung in the air between us. We hadn't really talked about what had happened since my confrontation with my sister. I think we were both trying to move on without fully addressing the damage that had been done, but it was eating away at both of us. I don't know what to do anymore, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I feel like I'm losing both of you. He looked at me, his expression soft but serious. You're not losing me, he said gently, taking my hand. But I won't lie, this whole thing has been hard. I didn't expect your sister to do something like this, and it's made things complicated. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. I just don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to make things go back to how they were. He squeezed my hand. Maybe we can't go back to how things were, he said softly. But that doesn't mean we can't move forward. It's going to take time. For both of us. Hearing him say that made me realize how much this whole situation had affected him too. It wasn't just about my relationship with my sister. It was about how the lies had shaken our relationship as well. Even though he hadn't done anything wrong, the trust between us had been tested, and we both knew that it would take time to rebuild that sense of security. Over the next few weeks, I tried to take things one step at a time. I spent more time with my boyfriend, reassuring him that I believed him and that I was working through everything. We had open, honest conversations about how we were feeling, and I could tell it was helping. Slowly, the tension between us started to ease, and we began to feel like ourselves again. But it wasn't just about us anymore. It was about my sister too. One afternoon, my sister knocked on my door. It had been a while since we had a real conversation, and I could tell she was nervous. She walked into my room and sat down on the edge of my bed, fidgeting with her hands. I know things have been weird between us, she said, her voice soft and hesitant. And I know I've hurt you. I don't know how to make it right. I looked at her, feeling a mixture of sadness and frustration. It's not something you can just fix overnight, I replied honestly. I want to forgive you, but it's going to take time. You really hurt me, Emily. I trusted you more than anyone, and you broke that trust. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. I know, she whispered, and I hate myself for it. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do is try to show you that I'm sorry. For the first time in a while, I saw how much pain she was in. She wasn't just feeling guilty. She was feeling the loss of our relationship just as much as I was. And in that moment, I realized that while I was hurt, she was hurting too. Her actions had been driven by fear. Fear of losing me. And now she was grappling with the consequences. I don't hate you, I said finally, my voice softening. I could never hate you. But it's going to take time for us to get back to where we were. I just need you to be honest with me from now on. No more lies. No more going behind my back. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I promise. No more lies. I just want things to be okay between us again. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. For the first time in weeks, we had a real conversation, one that wasn't clouded by tension or anger. It was raw and emotional, but it was honest. And that's what we needed more than anything, honesty. As the days went on, my sister and I slowly started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of awkwardness and unspoken hurt, but we were making progress. We spent more time together, talking about things other than the drama that had unfolded. We went back to sharing little parts of our lives, like we used to, but this time with a new understanding of each other's vulnerabilities. In the meantime, I also worked on strengthening my relationship with my boyfriend. We went on more dates, spent more time just talking and reconnecting. I made sure he knew that I trusted him completely, and that my sister's lies hadn't changed how I felt about him. Slowly, the distance between us faded, and we started to feel like we were on solid ground again. But it wasn't just about fixing the relationships around me. I also realized that I needed to work on myself, on how I handled conflict, on how I communicated with the people I loved. This whole situation had taught me that sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones that lead to the most growth. I couldn't keep avoiding difficult truths, and I couldn't let fear or doubt control my relationships. In the end, it wasn't just about repairing the trust between my sister, my boyfriend, and me. It was about learning how to communicate openly, how to navigate difficult emotions, and how to forgive, not just others, but also myself. I had spent so much time doubting my instincts, blaming myself for not seeing the signs, that I forgot to be kind to myself in the process. Resolution. The more time that passed, the more I realized the healing wasn't about forgetting what had happened. It was about learning how to move forward, even with the scars left behind. My relationships with both my sister and my boyfriend had been tested in ways I never thought possible, but somehow we were all still here, and that meant something. One evening, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. I was sitting in my room, feeling more at peace than I had in weeks, and I started thinking about how much I had grown because of this whole ordeal. It wasn't just about patching things up with the people I loved. It was about understanding the deeper reasons behind everything that had unfolded. I had learned so much, not only about them, but about myself as well. The biggest thing I learned? Communication is everything. Before all of this, I thought my relationships were solid just because we spent time together, shared our lives, and supported each other. But I hadn't realized how important real, honest communication was. Without it, even the strongest relationships can fall apart. The lies, the rumors, the assumptions. None of that would have happened if we had just talked openly from the start. I knew now that I couldn't take any relationship for granted. Whether it was with my sister or my boyfriend, or even friends and family, communication had to be at the center. And not just the easy conversations, the hard ones, the uncomfortable ones, the ones where you have to lay your heart out and risk getting hurt. Those are the conversations that matter the most. After everything, my sister and I made a pact to be honest with each other, no matter how difficult the truth might be. We promised to talk about our feelings instead of bottling them up and letting them fester into something ugly. It was a small promise, but it was a step toward rebuilding the trust that had been broken. It didn't mean that things would be perfect overnight, but it gave us a foundation to work from. One day, we decided to spend some quality time together, just the two of us like we used to. We went for a walk in the park, talking about life, work, and other random things. There were no heavy conversations, no awkward silences, just us being sisters again. I could feel the tension between us starting to ease, and I knew we were on the path to healing. It wasn't about erasing what had happened, but learning how to live with it and move forward. That was what mattered most. My relationship with my boyfriend also grew stronger through all of this. We had gone through a storm together, and we came out the other side more solid than before. I'd learned to trust him even more deeply, and he learned that I needed open communication to feel secure. We both grew from the experience, and in a strange way, it brought us closer together. One evening, we sat down and talked about everything that had happened. It wasn't one of those emotional, tear-filled conversations. It was calm, reflective. We talked about how far we had come since the rumors started, and how we had both learned so much about each other and about what we needed in a relationship. "I'm glad we got through this," I said, squeezing his hand. "I don't think I realized how strong we were until now." He smiled at me, his expression soft. "Me too. I know it wasn't easy, but I think it made us better." I couldn't have agreed more. The trust between us had been tested, but it hadn't broken. If anything, it had grown stronger because we had faced the challenges head-on. We didn't let the lies tear us apart. We fought for our relationship, and we won. As time passed, things slowly returned to normal. My sister and my boyfriend still weren't best friends or anything, but they had reached a point where they could be in the same room without tension. There was a mutual understanding between them now, a quiet respect. My sister had apologized to him, and he had accepted her apology. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. But more than anything, I had learned the importance of boundaries. One of the biggest mistakes I had made was not setting clear boundaries between my relationships. I had let my sister's fears and insecurities seep into my relationship with my boyfriend, and I had allowed myself to get caught in the middle. Now, I knew that it was okay to separate those parts of my life when necessary. My sister and my boyfriend didn't have to be best friends, and that was fine. What mattered was that I had healthy, respectful relationships with both of them. Through this entire experience, I had also learned a lot about forgiveness. Forgiving someone doesn't mean forgetting what they did or pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is about letting go of the anger and the pain so that you can move forward. It's about accepting that people make mistakes and deciding that the relationship is worth more than the hurt. I forgave my sister, not because what she did was okay, but because I knew that holding on to the anger would only poison our relationship in the long run. And I forgave myself for the doubt and confusion I had felt. I had been caught in an impossible situation, and I had done the best I could with what I had. In the end, the whole experience left me feeling stronger, more grounded. It was like I had been through a fire and come out the other side with a clearer sense of who I was and what I valued. I wasn't the same person I had been before all of this happened, but that was a good thing. I had grown, and so had the people around me. I looked at my sister one day as we were laughing about something ridiculous, and I realized that we had both changed. Our relationship had shifted, but it wasn't a bad thing. We were learning how to be sisters in a new way, one that was built on honesty and trust, even if it wasn't perfect. Life isn't about perfect relationships. It's about the ones that you fight for, the ones that survive the hard times because you're willing to put in the effort to make them work. That's what I had learned through all of this, and while the journey had been difficult, it had also been worth it. Call to action. So, that's my story. A crazy, emotional journey that taught me so much about trust, communication, and the importance of setting boundaries. I hope my experience can help anyone out there who might be going through something similar. Family drama, relationship struggles, miscommunications. These things can feel like the end of the world, but they don't have to be. You can get through it, and you can come out stronger on the other side. Now, I want to hear from you guys. Have you ever had to deal with something like this, where a family member or close friend came between you and your relationship? How did you handle it? I'd love to read your stories in the comments below, so feel free to share. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. I've got more personal stories and advice coming your way, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.